What if, at 7:32 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, it just stopped? Not the world, not time, something far more intimate. What if every single human on Earth simultaneously lost the ability to feel physical pain? For the first few seconds, nothing happens. But then, a construction worker in Dubai drops a steel beam on his foot and just looks down, confused. A chef in Lyon lays her hand flat on a searing hot stove, smelling the singed skin before she even thinks to pull it away. And in 1,000 cities, in 1,000 fender benders, drivers get out of their wrecked cars, smiling and shaking hands, completely unaware of the shattered ribs and compound fractures hidden beneath their clothes. The initial news reports would be euphoric. A miracle. Humanity has shed its oldest curse. But this gift would come with a terrifying secret, a fatal flaw buried not in our bodies, but in the very definition of being alive. Because the apocalypse that followed wouldn't be loud and fiery, it would be an apocalypse of silence. Hey, I'm Leo, and this is Everyday Ifs. Welcome to the show where we ask the absurd questions to find the profound answers. In this new, painless world, the first week would feel like a superpower. Athletes would shatter records, pushing their bodies past limits that pain used to enforce. People would get tattoos and piercings with a shrug. Daredevils would become gods. We meet Kalen, a young architect, on day one. He stubs his toe so hard against his bed frame he hears a distinct crack, but instead of screaming, he just laughs. He feels invincible. Life, it seems, has removed its biggest obstacle, but the party wouldn't last. The first sign that something is terribly wrong would appear in our hospitals. The emergency rooms, once filled with the sounds of suffering, would fall quiet. They'd fill instead with people bewildered by their own injuries. Children would arrive with third-degree burns, not crying, but fascinated by the strange texture of their own skin. Elderly people would be brought in with broken hips they sustained hours earlier, having just continued their day as normal. Doctors would face an impossible task. Their most fundamental diagnostic tool, the patient's own report of pain, is gone. Where does it hurt becomes a meaningless question. Think of pain as the dashboard of your car. It's a complex system of warning lights. That little twinge in your back is the check engine light telling you to fix your posture. A stomachache is the low fuel light telling you not to eat that third slice of pizza. A headache is the overheating warning telling you to drink some water. Now, imagine driving a car with no dashboard. You'd feel great. You'd just keep driving, pushing the engine, taking corners too fast, right up until the moment the engine block cracks and the whole car seizes up in a cloud of smoke, leaving you stranded. That's what would begin to happen to the human race. We'd be driving our bodies straight into ruin, smiling the whole way. Kalen, our architect, spends a long day at his desk. He leans his elbow on a metal lamp base that, unbeknownst to him, has a faulty wire and is slowly heating up. He doesn't notice the blistering burn on his arm until he smells it. He doesn't notice that he's been staring at his monitor for 6 straight hours without blinking enough, because the usual dry, gritty ache in his eyes never arrives. So we'd all just need to be more careful, right? Set timers, do routine body checks. It seems like a solvable problem, but the real catastrophe isn't caused by the big, obvious injuries. It's caused by the enemy we can't see. A silent, relentless process of self-destruction that pain was always holding at bay. It's called nociception, the sensory nervous system's response to harmful stimuli. But its most important job isn't warning us about the hot stove or the sharp nail. It's the constant, low-level feedback that manages our bodies second by second. The tiny signals that tell you to shift your weight when you've been sitting for too long, preventing pressure sores. The micro-adjustments you make while walking, ensuring your joints are aligned and not grinding bone against bone. The impulse to roll over in your sleep. Without that feedback, our bodies would begin a terrifying process of falling apart. Let's check back in on Kalen. 6 months into the painless era, he decides to go for a run, feeling that old invincibility. He pushes himself, sprinting faster than ever. He feels a strange, wet, tearing sensation in his calf, but with no accompanying agony, he just keeps going. He has completely shredded his Achilles tendon, but it gets worse. His joints, without the constant guidance of pain, have been moving incorrectly for months. The cartilage in his knees and hips, the smooth, precious cushioning, has been worn down to nothing. He is a young man with the arthritic joints of a 90-year-old. His body is literally grinding itself to dust, and he has no idea. This would be a global phenomenon, a silent epidemic of degeneration, decay, and disintegration. The human body, a marvel of engineering, would be revealed as shockingly fragile, a machine that requires a constant stream of error messages just to keep from tearing itself apart. The world's healthcare systems wouldn't just be overwhelmed, they would be rendered obsolete. How do you treat an entire population that is unknowingly and unstoppably self-destructing? And the numbers behind this are staggering. The pressure that causes a bed sore to form is incredibly low, just 12 millimeters of mercury. That's less pressure than you get from a gentle squeeze of your arm. We avoid it thousands of times a day without thinking, simply because a nerve ending sends a tiny ouch move it signal to our brain. Without it, anyone sitting or lying down for extended periods, office workers, drivers, or people sleeping, is at risk. But the most devastating consequence isn't physical. It's psychological. Life would become a prison of constant, paranoid self-monitoring. Every moment would be filled with a terrifying checklist. Did I shift my weight this minute? Did I bite my tongue while chewing? Let me check. Did I blink enough times in the last 30 seconds? Are my shoes rubbing my feet raw? I can't tell. The mental exhaustion would be crushing. The simple, spontaneous joy of movement would be gone, replaced by a cold, robotic calculus of risk. Human connection would become terrifying. How could you hug your child, not knowing if the button on their coat is pressing into you, causing a deep tissue injury? How could you hold a lover's hand without the fear that your grip is just a little too tight, fracturing a delicate bone? Touch, our most fundamental way of showing affection and trust, would become a liability. The world would become a cold, distant place. A population of fragile glass dolls terrified of bumping into one another. We would lose more than just a sensation. We would lose a piece of our humanity, the relief that follows pain, the empathy we feel when we see another in pain, the profound, hard-won wisdom that comes from surviving it. Pain, it turns out, is a storyteller. It tells us the story of our limits, our resilience, our fragility. It's the fierce, loyal guardian that screams stop when we're about to go too far. We spend our lives trying to escape pain. We build entire industries to numb it, conquer it, and forget it. But what if the ultimate victory was actually the ultimate defeat? In a world without physical pain, we wouldn't become gods. We would become ghosts, trapped in bodies that are silently, painlessly, beautifully falling apart. We would learn too late that pain was never the flaw in our design. It was the teacher, the guardian, and the brutal, beautiful, necessary anchor that tied our minds to the fragile reality of our own bodies.